Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. We've got some great inspiration coming through here today. Uh, Longtime friend Sheryl Lynn went out on the Chair of Joy tour. Now, if you think that sounds cool, just wait till you hear more about it, because the Chair of Joy is amazingly fun and cool, and the revelations that come through as you're sharing your own Chair of Joy moments are pretty awesome too. Sheryl, thanks for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration.
Thank you, Scott. It is so good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks. It was so much fun doing the Chair of Joy. So before we get into some of the results, when people sit in the Chair of Joy, where'd the whole concept come from?
So people ask me that all the time, and I'm trying to kind of pinpoint it down to one specific thing, but it's been a 30-year process, Scott. I I realized that my entire life I loved to interview people just like you did. And what I found and what I remembered most from their responses over the years, I sold real estate, I was in the food and beverage industry, owned a bar and grill, is that everybody sort of entered into some sort of level of complacency. And I noticed that joy was someday or one day, and it never really was a priority. And then for myself, I just realized that I didn't have the vocabulary around the concept and how to leverage the emotion of joy. So I basically just went on a hunt, started researching, and I decided to buy the chair mostly as a symbol or a mechanism to get people to sit up literally and pay attention that there really is something to sitting, breathing, thinking, and feeling, which our process is all about.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. I appreciated the invitation when you were here in Dallas. That chair has traveled along with you a long way at this point, and I know you're going to embark on another tour. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But again, even mine, when I was talking about or being in the Chair of Joy, my life purpose statement ends with "in spirit, love, and joy." And I
Mhm.
remember saying, boy, I've had a lot of fun, but I don't know that I've had as much joy as I would like. So bringing it top of the mind has got to be very rewarding for both you and all who sit in the chair, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I was just to bring it home. I mean, I've been doing this now for about 2 years, and I've had thousands of people sit. I've been to about 50 cities, heading to New York City from central Wisconsin coming up in May. And the idea is to give the gift of the chair of joy. So that's really the boilerplate language, if you will, so that people can say, I don't have to spend any money. I don't have to go on vacation. I don't have to go somewhere. I don't have to buy the guru thing, except for Scott's book. Everybody should buy Scott's book. But the idea is that the chair of joy is anywhere you are. And we can all have a fancy chair like I do, that I share around the country, or it could be the stool in the kitchen. Or one lady told me she sits on a bench in her pantry when she needs a moment to go sit, breathe, think, and feel. But really, it's the concept of people going, oh, wait a minute, I can expand and create joy in this moment without going anywhere. And so the people yesterday in the call were so embraced and embodied the conversation that they could see themselves going to their chair of joy 4 or 5 or even 10 times a day as they grow and become more self-aware and know that they can self-regulate back to joy in an instant if that's what they choose.
Well, I think that's the important part, because as I said to somebody on an earlier call today, I don't think
Mhm.
anybody built a 2-year pandemic into their business plan. If they did, I would like to know them, because they know a lot of things that are going on in the future. But one of the things that happened, obviously, is as horrible as many parts of the pandemic have been, there are also been some positive parts. And I think that what you're doing with Share of Joy is part of that, is really getting people to understand that they can take back their joy at any time, but that's a decision that they can make. It doesn't have to come from
Yeah.
anything else, correct?
Absolutely. And I think that I just heard a song this morning from a fellow collaborator in New York City that I'm going to meet, and he wrote a song called the Joy Generation. So people are becoming extremely aware of the science of the conversation of joy, right? That there's just a constantly ever evolving and deep well of research on the fact that these positive short-term experiences that we're teaching in the Chair of Joy can really affect your baseline mood. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, if you're feeling like the day is starting out with your to-do list that's 100 miles long as a CEO, and you go, oh, but I have to deal with some hiring and firing and stockholders and, press release and today, right? And so when do they get to say, wait a minute, if I take and make joy a priority and let these moments sink in, even if it's just for 1 minute, what's possible? What's my bottom line look? What are my KPIs going to turn out to be, right? So people are really paying attention to the neuroplasticity conversation that's around the practice that we're doing.
So let's help everybody understand. You say that there's a 4-part process here. So let's identify the parts and share a little bit why they're all important and how they all come together.
Well, Scott, I just want you to know that I am so grateful for that question. You have no idea. The building up of boiling down to 4 simple words has been such a process, and I'm delighted to share the experience with you and your listeners. So it's very simple. Just feel yourself in your moment, like dang, them a little stressed or even in joy. There's 17 different levels of emotions, right? Wherever you're at, you can elevate. Even if you're in joy, you can elevate, right? To peace and harmony and who knows what else, if you're faith-based, there's more connection there as well. So wherever you are, when you become self-aware, just think in your mind. Let's do it real quick. So where's your chair of joy again, Scott? Where was it in your house?
Mine is massage chair we got a little room dedicated for exercise.
Beautiful. So just everybody imagine that you're sitting in your chair of joy. And remember, it could be your car seat in your car. It could be, under a tree on the lawn. It can be at the park on a bench. It doesn't matter. So just kind of wiggle yourself, let your arms kind of relax, let your shoulders drop. And that's step 1, sit. Step 2 is breathe. I know we think we breathe and we are doing that every day, all day long, but just taking a moment to actually take a breath. Let's do it one more time together. I like to say an ocean wave breath in. So 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. Just kind of hear what you hear and see what you see. The third part is to think. So Scott, I know I've asked you this while you were actually in the studio, in the chair of joy, and you had some amazing responses. But if you could take one more deep breath in and land on one moment of joy in your past, something that you were just like, man, life was kick butt. What was that for you?
Yeah, I can see my lovely wife and I walking down the beach in Cane Garden Bay in the British Virgin Islands.
Beautiful. And I don't know about everybody listening, but I can feel the love for your wife. What's her name?
Peggy.
And you can feel the Virgin Islands and the sand and the wind and the palm trees and everything happening right there. So Scott, just let that moment sort of resonate from your head to your toe. And that's the 4th step, is allow your body to feel it. This is the neuroplasticity part where you can actually say, oh my gosh, I'm aware that I am now creating joy in this moment, and your body is reacting, right? It's got that. Where do you feel it? Is it in your body? Is it in the back of your neck? And is it in your heart? Is it a warm kind of glowing feeling? How about for you, Scott? Where do you feel it?
Yeah, it's just a kind of warm, a warm feel in my chest.
Awesome. So that's it. And then if we have extra time, if we do, I'd love to do one more. It's just one more deep breath and think about a future moment of joy, something coming up that you're looking forward to. That's so exciting that you just can't wait for this day to come. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, we'll be traveling out to Las Vegas.
Oh, I love Las Vegas. That's where the chair of joy was born, in Las Vegas. It arrived on a big semi truck right there. But same thing, just see the moment. A lot of people don't stop and take a deep breath and let their body catch up to their mind, right? And so then when you can connect those moments of joy and even give the joy a name, like maybe it's adventure or love or family or whatever it is, it's different all the time. But There's more to it than that, but that's the basics and the elementary conversation, if you will. Sit, breathe, think, feel, and you can sit anywhere, anytime, any chair, and it works amazingly. And people are seeing joy lifts, like they maybe come into their chair of joy on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 5, and they leave their chair of joy 2 minutes later at a 7, or at a 7 and they go to a 10. And it just all depends on kind of being, again, self-aware and self-regulating your levels of joy so you can get back to work, almost instantly.
Well, I love the self-aware and self-regulating. I think that's, again, pointing to the pandemic a little bit. It's the one thing that's come out of it that I think is a positive is self-awareness and awareness, period.
Mhm.
And then realizing, I think it's funny. I talked to a lot of friends. Of course, I live in Dallas and grew up in Wisconsin, and I got a lot of friends out in California, and we laugh because some of the greatest decisions that have been made out there is driving 2 hours to work and from work every day is not a positive thing. It's like
Exhausting.
this new awareness of all this and how it's changed so many people, just saying, yeah, I'm not going back into that office environment, or I'm not going to get back into that
Nope.
thing. But again, I think that's the awareness that the chair of joy brings is, I don't think we stop and smell the roses well enough. Is that am I overblowing that, or is that the fact?
I mean, how can we, right? We're in the midst of war and, mass shootings, and, there's just all the messaging apps that kind of come through and show us that, everything that's happening on a moment by moment basis. So it's not, I don't even say it's up to us, or it's our fault, or there's any specific reason for this. I just know that our Dr. Sanjay Kumar, he is the director of contemplative practices at the Interfaith Center at Chapman University, actually in Orange County, California. And he says our brains are developed for survival, right? Not happiness. Think of way back when, right? We were just hunting and fishing and trying to get to the thing, right? So the human mind prioritizes negative experiences. That's why you say to children, there's one statistic that I heard that children get by the age of 12, only 200 positive comments, because they're always being guided or directed, right? So it's just not in our culture, in our society, or as a human being to tap into the positive experience. So that's why this is really an antidote. Like the chair of joy is an antidote to disrupt. It's a disruptor to get people to go, hey, brain, I know you're over here doing all this stuff and we can't help it because everything's coming at us, but I'm in charge, right? Cheryl's in charge, Scott's in charge. I get to choose, I get to create joy, and I don't have to get sucked into the things that are happening externally.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many different, again, in a conversation I had yesterday with a fellow coach and trainer. And I said, I did a blog way back when, and the title was "Who Motivates Tony Robbins When He's Down?"
Right.
And the answer is simple. Tony Robbins does. He and we've had that conversation, but what I was relating is I've got a memory box that when I get a thank you card or an attaboy, or somebody says, gosh, I really love your book, or man, that piece of coaching you did really made a huge impact on my life. All those little notes are all in that memory box. And so when those times are, not, we all go through stuff, right? All of a sudden you can go back to your memory box. But I was just thinking about, boy, if you combine the memory box with the chair of joy, what a great opportunity to just bring you back and change state.
Well, you know what? We have our phones and we're always taking pictures. And, I'm raised 3 daughters and now a granddaughter. And so I encourage them to whip out their phones when they're seeing something magical or profound or awe-inspiring, right? Because it's so easy to just flip back through our phones and recollect those memories, whether we have a memory box like you do, which is incredible. I have a little one, but I wish it would have been accumulating over the years more so than I did. But yes, there's so many ways to find the pathway to joy, from inspiration to reading to friends, family, like doing the things you love, adventure. I mean, it's on and on and on. But I mean, I think it's really learning, right, to be clear about what it is that drives you. So just because that works for them and they feel joyful, maybe you staying home, right, and just having a quiet evening with a movie is your cup of tea. So it's really a matter of paying attention and prioritizing joy, as I said. How do you get up every day and say, you know what? Like, for example, I'll just give you a quick story. My team, right? We meet every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and everyone comes together, and I'll say, so we're going to start a meeting like we do every day. Deep breath, sit, breathe, think. What's your moment of joy? And yes, I'll say, what's your moment of joy yesterday? And they'll go, I don't know. Geez, I don't know. And I'm like, we're in the business, right? We're studying joy. So I have to say every day, almost every day, right? You wake up in the morning, you get to create joy. Do you have to take a moment from this meeting and go outside and go for a walk or a run or go get a cup of coffee, whatever the thing is for you? And so I hate to ramble on about that all the time, but it's not a priority. And I don't know. I mean, my mission and vision is to touch the chair of joy, or to have the words chair of joy come out of half the population on the planet. That's 4 billion people, right? And how many of them will stick? If all at all will it stick? How many timeout chairs are we going to remove to put in the chair of joy so that children can grow up with a new language around the concept of joy? So I don't know, that's not up to me, but my ask is, and my suggestion is, that people just wake up every morning and make it a priority. There's no other way to get to the thing that we want in life without prioritizing your joy, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree with you there. And I was just thinking as you were sharing there, because I know even when we were filming in Dallas, the range of people that were there
Right.
across all. So, but you've taken the chair of joy into CEOs' offices, presidents of companies. I mean, high-ranking executives.
Yes.
And I think you and I had a conversation one day where early you were even a little surprised at how impactful it was for them. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I've been on a massive learning curve, watching, as you said, from I've had homeless people in all the way to the elite and the celebrities and the politicians and the multimillionaires. And the story, the baseline story, is exactly the same. Like sit, breathe, think, feel. It puts us all in a place of courage. Like you have to have a little bit of courage to sit in your chair of joy, because sometimes emotions come up, or, maybe somebody's going to ask you a question, or maybe you don't have the answer. Maybe you say the wrong thing or whatever that is. But I just think every single human being that sits down, whether it's your chair or my chair, has starts to become powerful in establishing a routine of significant long-term change. And so when I see CEOs have tears of joy when they're thinking about when their grandbaby was born, or when they got that first standing ovation, or when they were able to buy all their staff a trip to Cancun, or whatever the thing was, right? And so yeah, it doesn't matter that it's not about status quo. It's not about religion. Although many people who are faith-based are turning or making the sit, breathe, think, feel into sitting and listening to God, breathing in his love and his kindness, and feeling his expertise, and et cetera, et cetera. And so there's all different ways to do it. The answer is there's no one right way. And the answer is it's for every single human being on the planet.
Well, that part's really cool as well. And I hadn't thought about the homeless. I'm sure there had to be some stunning revelations from folks who are less fortunate than others. Is there anything that sticks in your mind from some of those folks?
Yes, I would love to share a story. She signed a release, so I'm able to talk to her about this, but she was walking on the street. Her name is Ellie. She's walking on the street in California, I think in Los Angeles, downtown somewhere. And Dr. J's team has a company called Homeless, Not Toothless. And so he's a dentist to many stars, Dr. J. Grossman, he's in Malibu. And she was in the chair of joy, and she told me that she remembers the tap on her shoulder. And she, of course, had no teeth, and she was just, you could see the joy in her face, but I could also sense that it was shut down based on the fact that she didn't have the money or the means to get to the thing that she wanted, which was a beautiful smile. So she said, I don't know how it came about or why God picked me, but when the tap on the shoulder came, I said yes. And Sharon Stone is on the board of directors of Homeless Not Toothless, and so they're one of their strategies is to go searching for the clients. And so
Wow.
she started just tearfully telling how much joy and love she had for the foundation of Homeless Not Toothless. And the beaming smile from ear to ear now that she's got a full set of teeth. And you see how it's just the little things, right? People talk about when they saw their mom for the first time, when they were adopted, and what that meant to them. And so it doesn't matter where you come from or what your experience of trauma or tragedy has been. The bottom line is you feel good when you stop and recollect the memory. So you're right. I've had barns, backyards, boardrooms, and everywhere in between. And so excited for this next tour. It's just unfolding as a movement. I've never run a movement, but it feels really good.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the next tour. Where are you off to? Where, what are the next few stops on the road?
Scott, you're such a beautiful human being. I just want you to know. And I hope that you put the link down of your video. And if you don't have it, I'll find it for you. But it was so powerful. I mean, Scott was one of the very first people on the tour in Dallas, right? We were in Dallas, right? And
Yep.
I didn't really know what questions I was asking or what camera angles I was going after, or even what the outcome was supposed to be. But you helped ignite the Chair of Joy movement, Scott, and you're a huge player. And here you are again today interviewing me. And I'm just so grateful for that. You have no idea.
Oh,
But the tour is this tour. I'm in Wisconsin now. My mom's here. She's 80. So I'm doing a lot of, things that you do when your parents are aging, and I'm having a blast with that. So we are taking off from Appleton, heading to Milwaukee, Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia. And then we're on May 21, we're in the dance parade, which is 10,000 dancers. We have a front booth where the Chair of Joy will be up by the center stage, where the grand marshals will come in and they have to sit in the Chair of Joy for their award. And then my goal, my vision for this month of May, the last day is May 23rd, and that's going to be in the center of the New York City. And my press release is reaching out to Good Morning America. So that's my vision, is to have a continued conversation about intentional healing and transformation the whole way. So I don't know who I'll meet. I don't know what's going to happen, but we've got some pretty incredible people that are tapping in, just like you did back in the day, Scott.
Well, thank you. Again, it's something I say quite a bit, and it's Mother Teresa's quote: "If you can't feed 100, feed one."
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes for a movement like this is one. It's that one person who's connected to whomever, who shares an idea that says, hey, you should try the Chair of Joy. And all of a sudden they have that experience. And it's interesting. I would like to actually see my own, see that recording again, because
it's great.
Well,
it's so good.
It's so interesting when you just open yourself up to the possibilities and let it go. It's like when you asked the question before, where would I, earlier, and I said, I just saw so clearly Peggy and I walking down the beach at King Garden Bay. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't thought about that moment in, years, but for whatever reason, that's the one that popped up right then. And now I've got them firing off left and right. So I think that's one of the happy byproducts of sitting in the Chair of Joy is that moment. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take this massive commitment to change your state and then really enjoy that state for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And so being able to pop back into it quickly just is awesome from that side. Sorry, I'm just kind of reminiscing on my own here.
I love it. I think you were one of the first people I called, and I just you introduced me to like the next 20 people I interviewed. Remember that? You were like, call him, call her, call her. They all said, Scott said yes. So they came on down to the studio. It was incredible. And I just remember you sitting in the chair talking about I don't know if this part made it to the recording necessarily, but I just remember you saying, holy man, like this really puts you out in a vulnerable position. And yet there was no fear from you for that. There is for some people a little bit, because you don't know if the right memory is going to come up, or do I want to share that memory with these people, right? And so there's a little bit of caveat around the conversation, but for the most part, it was easy for everyone. Everybody loved it, and I can't even tell you, Scott, you were just right there from the very, very, very beginning, and I'm so amazed how far we've come in just a short couple of years.
Well, with this show, we'll also publicize the tour, and I encourage anybody to get a hold of you if they're in one of those cities, and really take advantage of this opportunity for yourself too. I mean, it's cool to do it in your own domicile, right? To have your own chair, and everybody pretty much has that favorite spot where they sit. But there's something about the chair of joy. This is not a small chair, by the way. This
Yeah,
is a, this
it's
is
a big one. It's
yeah,
taller than me.
yeah, it's a big chair. And so there's just something magical about even sitting in the chair and then allowing yourself a little bit of that vulnerability, like you say. But we're in such a great time for this. For me, it's one of the reasons I do the show. The show is about sharing messages of hope and inspiration. That's why it's
Mhm.
Champions of Inspiration. How do we get people out of some of the everyday rut that they're in and give them at least a moment or two of considering another possibility? So we're starting to run down on time here, but how about some last bits of wisdom, whether they have come from the individuals in the chair or just things that you want to get across to everybody, and with the invitation to join you on tour?
Well, Dr. Paul is part of the World Council of Joy, Dr. Paul Abel, and he wrote a book called Joy is 365 Keys to Longevity. And so he's a longevity expert. And if you don't mind, I'd love to read his quote, because
Please.
he has given a lifetime, and he says that joy is our panacea. So whatever ails or whatever social issues or chronic crisis there are in the world, that joy is, and the chair of joy are tools. So let me just share with you his quote.
Please do.
He says, by Dr. Paul Abel, current statistics show that current statistics now indicate that establishing a routine time each day to pause, reflect, meditate, pray, and be mindful of positive percepts has a significant and long-term effect on the biochemical systems of the body. Such deeper moments as the one you just experienced, Scott, stimulate the beneficial hormones, which in turn enhance total wellness. Indeed, joy, the most powerful and euphoric state of being, may actually be the key to both quality and quantity of life.
Wow.
Oh.
That's powerful, and touches on all parts of longevity. I know that it's one of the, like I say, one of the reasons that we do the show is we want to tell the untold or undertold stories, and get people to understand that sometimes people get caught in the stuff of life, and they don't think there's an escape. And the reality is the escape can be as easy as sitting in a chair of joy, relaxing, breathing, calming down.
Sit, breathe, think, feel, Paul, or Scott, you're absolutely right. And since I've seen you, we've developed small and large workshops along with a keynote and a year-long program for corporations. So there's a lot to this, even though we boiled it down to something really simple. We are not habitually prepared to make joy a priority. And it's not our fault. It's just part of who we are as a world. But as a people, we all yearn for joy. And that's the bottom line. That's the thing that we all have in common. And we can achieve it. And so I invite everyone to join the Chair of Joy movement, and please come visit me out on the tour. I would absolutely love to meet you and spread and share your story like we have with Scott's.
How do people get a hold of you to learn more about the process and to potentially even work with you?
Thank you. It's Joyely, Joyely. So not merrily we roll along, or we joyily roll along, Joyely. So Joyely, and I'm Sheryl, and it's Sheryl, Sheryl @joyely.com.
That's fabulous. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing joy into all of our lives. And the beauty of this is we'll be able to replay it in a lot of places. We're already in 109 countries with this today, and we're going to get out to a whole lot more. So thank you for joining us here today, Sheryl.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
Absolutely. And thank you all for joining us here at Champions of Inspiration. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. God bless.